I was feeling mighty low. I was feeling real bad. And then I cleaned my Bovita cups. And I know there's a God. Or whatever it was that Miss Sophia said. Hey y'all, this is Nikki. And you're listening to the How to Be Magical podcast. And this episode is called Altars. It's called something else. I'm going to title it something else. But this episode is about altars. And yeah, let's get into it. Hey y'all, this is Nikki, and I am the owner of Soul Things Botanica, and you are listening to the How to Be Magical podcast. And today is Friday, January 17th, 2020, and I know I had put on social that I was going to upload this episode last night, but I came home and I fell into bed, and then I got up at like 1 a.m, and I was like, all right, let me get to this, because there's so much to talk about with altars, and especially now on social media, you see people post these lovely pictures and they look, altar is pretty much what you make it, so they say. And there's so many different ways to do it. And then, a lot of people get confused, or they get nervous, or they get scared. And they're like, I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't want to do it wrong. So I'm going to consult my notes on this one because I have so many notes and there is so many things to cover. This might actually end up being a 2-part episode. And I'll finish recording on either Saturday or Sunday. And there's so much. So let me just give y'all a little bit of background, because I feel like that's important when talking about altars and the different types that there are and why I keep mine. Because in the end of the day, it don't make sense to start nothing unless you know why you're doing it. And if you don't know why you're doing it, then you probably need to stop and figuring out why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, so first things first, oh gosh, this is so crazy, because it's there's so much. I just want to preface this episode with, I am not a mental health professional. I am only giving you my personal experience. I'm only giving you the tools and the strategies that work for me. If anything resonates with you, take that. If it doesn't, leave it. I'm saying this because mental health is a very touchy topic, and people get very upset when somebody who is not a mental health professional says things, whatever works for them, and then people start getting really upset. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not trying to upset nobody, but I ain't gonna sit here and lie about what works for me and what don't. Okay? So, damn, what year we in 2020? Okay, so maybe 7 years ago. I want to say 7 years ago, I checked myself into the psych ward, right? I was not dealing well with a lot of things, right? It had to be 7 years ago because it was before my Nana passed. And I was just not dealing well. I was not coping with life well at all. It was so many changes. It was so many things that happened, so many disappointments, so much failure. I was at a low point in my life. I have been keeping my table for maybe 10 years now, actively keeping the table for 10 years, and I was still in the beginning of that journey and trying to figure out what that meant and all those things. And it was a summer when I just was not doing that great, wasn't feeling that great. I had a wonderful day the day before with a friend. We went to the beach and we had, I might have drank too much, I might have smoked too much, whatever, right? I might have threw off my chemicals and my hormones too much, that the next day when I woke up, my whole shit was fucked up, okay? I was feeling fucked up. I was not feeling well. I was going to go to the store. I'm walking up Nostrand. I'm going towards Atlantic Avenue. And I don't know if any of y'all is from New York, then Atlantic Avenue is real busy. And I get to the corner and there's a truck coming, and I just had this intrusive thought, jump. And I was like, that shit scared me so bad. When the light changed, I walked right to the train station. I got right on the fucking train. I went right to fucking Bellevue Hospital, and I was like, I'm not well. And I was admitted in Bellevue Hospital in the psych ward. I was in the involuntary psych hold for 10 days. Right? So that means that I was not able to leave until a doctor deemed me medically, sound to go. And it was hard. It was hard spending those 10 days in there. But there was so many happy accidents that happened that let me know that, even in my lowest points, I was still being guided. Even in my lowest points, I was still being protected. Even in my lowest points, there were people that was looking out for me in ways that I was not looking out for myself. The first one being that I was admitted into the geriatric site, right? I was in there with a bunch of old folks. I mean, I was like one of the youngest people in there. There was maybe one or two other people that was like my age, but for the most part, everybody in there was old and gray. So I'm in there with a bunch of old people, which is probably for the fucking best, because this is New York City. And if I would have been in the psych ward with the people my age, some shit probably might have jumped off. It probably was going to be much worse, especially involuntary. So now you're in there with people that's like locked up and incarcerated and shit and like in transport or whatever. Like, it would have been too fucking much for me, just keeping it real. And I was in there with a bunch of old folks. It was like being there with a bunch of aunts, uncles, and cousins, I made a lot of unlikely friends in the psych ward. I learned a lot about myself in that time. I was able to keep my little journal. I asked them for a journal. They gave it to me. My mom came to visit me once. I was going through a lot. And when they gave me some medication to take, and which is funny because right now the same medication is being recalled as being cross-contaminated with some heart medication. But that's the medication that they wanted to put me on. It was called, the market name was Lamictal, but the actual, drug name is lamotrigine. I can't never pronounce those fucking pharmaceutical names. But it is essentially epilepsy medication with mood stabilizing side effects. Oh yeah, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and manic depression, which they don't call it manic depression anymore, but yeah, in that family of mental and mood disorders. And I was really fucked up for a while. Like, I was like mentally, I was not handling it well. I kind of always suspected that I had a mood disorder or something, but being that, like, you don't want to self-diagnose certain shit. Like, you just don't. Like, you want to go to a doctor, because I feel like it's very easy to psych yourself up and be like, yeah, I have this thing, and now you're just living with that, and it's like, what does that mean? So I have this thing, and now what does that mean? I'm supposed to act a certain way. I'm supposed to be a certain way, It's definitely, I wasn't with it. So I was prescribed Lamictal, and they was giving me, they gave me a medication, a prescription for it. And, when you're in the psych ward, you have to take the medicine that they give you. Like, you can't refuse medication. And they check to make sure that you took it and all this stuff. So the very last night, they gave me a denomination that didn't exist, right? Like, the pharmacist is coming around giving out the medications and shit. And it's a denomination that doesn't exist. Like, I think they prescribed me 15 milligrams or something, and they were like, this only comes in denominations of 20. So I don't know where this 15 came from. And then I was like, so what's that mean? And they was like, take this Benadryl and go to fucking bed. I was like, okay. And then when I came out the hospital, I never filled the prescription, right? And that was me making an active decision. Like, I don't want to live on medication. And I've always said that. I don't want to live on medication. But once I made that decision that I didn't want to live on medication, that meant that I'm going to have to actively do things to preserve my mental health. And I'm going to be responsible for that. And I have to be responsible for that because this is real, right? Like, chemical and hormone imbalance is real. Like, if I don't do certain things, my shit's going to be thrown off. And there's a lot of things that I did to really go and remedy my mental health and support my mental health. I don't want to say remedy because it's a daily struggle, but to support my mental health, I had to be mindful of the food I was eating, certain food. I had to be mindful of the substances I'm taking in. Like I said, the day before I was feeling crazy. I might have smoked too much. I might have drank too much in the name of, oh, I'm having fun, right? But how much fun do you really need to fucking have, right? Maybe after, maybe you don't need 2 joints. Maybe you just need 1. Maybe you don't need 4 beers. Maybe you could just have 2, right? I had to start telling myself, moderation for myself and not allow myself to get out of control because there's other things that's going to follow behind that. Certain food, certain meats, too much sugar, all of these things, all of these things. And even certain relationships with people. So all of those things took into account. But the one thing that definitely, and that's what this episode is about, one thing that definitely was a part of my mental health journey is maintaining my my Boveda. And that's one type of altar. Now, Boveda is not specifically a Boveda or a Mesa Blanca, white table, whatever you want to call it, is not necessarily the only way to do an ancestral table. It's one way to do it. And being that I am a medium, this is the way that I do it that is beneficial to me. So my table consists of, actually the table itself is a sewing cabinet that belonged to my Nana. The sewing machine been in our family for like 60 years or some shit now. And we all learned to sew on it. So it's got a lot of family ancestral power on it, So I got a lot of family energy on it. And I use that as the table. And I have a white lace runner that goes across it. And I have 9 glasses. I have a big glass in the middle, which actually belonged to my Nana. She used to keep a plant in there on the coffee table. And it looks like a big brandy snifter. And I keep that in the middle. And then I have 8 glasses around. And then I have another little wine glass chalice on the side that I put liquor in, just rum. And then I have another little cup that belonged to my great aunt that I put coffee in. And then I put a cigar over the coffee cup. And then I have other little things on the table. Like I have money under certain glasses. I'll keep a white candle. I have a doll that represents one of my spirits. And that's pretty much it. And when I first started it, I used to keep pictures and all that stuff, but I made a separate space for that because the table was just getting real crowded. I was like, I ain't even got enough room for all of this. And I would just set certain areas up with pictures and obituaries and funeral programs and little personal items like wallets and pens and things that they used to own, like personal things. But I keep those on a separate table now. But one thing I will say about my altar is that over the time, it was like the altar was not just for a place for my spirits to converge, but it was a place for me to meet with them. And it was a place for our energies to combine. These people walk with you, whether you got a table or not. Just want to let you know that. Whether you got a table for them or not, they with you. But the table helps. This is my personal philosophy. This is what I was taught. This is what I believe. The table helps. The table gives them a place, a meeting place. The water keeps them refreshed. They come to you. The water refreshes them. They go back out into the world. They do the things they do, and it's a cycle. I noticed that and this is years I've noticed this. So that's why sometimes I be playing little scientists with myself sometimes, but sometimes I literally just be playing myself. If I'm looking at my table and the glasses is cloudy and I start wondering why my fucking thoughts is cloudy and why I'm not feeling 100% and I start thinking some weird destructive shit, it's like, girl, go clean them cups. Clean the cups. And I swear to God, I swear on everything that I love. I clean them cups and within hours, my mood is back where it's supposed to be. It's scary almost how clear and how fast it works. But that's how you know something is working. And it's not just in my head, because I literally that's why I said this is a lot of transparency on this podcast, because I ain't about to bullshit with y'all. I ain't about to lie to y'all. I ain't about to tell y'all I got it all figured out. I'm going to tell y'all that I'm still figuring my shit out, and hopefully it helps somebody. But this is mostly for me. I do this so that way I can keep my shit together, because I can't do it. I can't do nothing if my glasses is cloudy. When the light goes out, when the candle goes out, ooh, I'm like, I always have candles. I always have a candle going on this table. I don't never let the Boveda go dark. And that's me. There's some people that they got a different relationship. They do different things. It's like, I know what works for me in my house. I got to do it like this. Otherwise, I ain't going to be feeling right. And I had a moment this week where I was like, yo, I'm not feeling good. I was just thinking and feeling, and just I was in my bag. For a better sense, lack of a better term, I was in my bag, and I had one day like that. I mean, I was a mess, and then I came home. I went straight into bed, And then maybe around like 1 o'clock in the morning, I got up and I was like, something in me was like, yo, clean these glasses. Like, this cup is cloudy. And that's the whole thing is like, excuse me, some people would say, do your glasses every week. That's just a standard practice, right? To do it at least every week. I got to clean these cups every 3 days. If they ain't, if the third day, it's looking crazy. And by the fourth day, I'm feeling crazy. And by the fifth day, I am no good to nobody. So I cannot do the 7-day thing. I got to be like every 3 to 4 days, these cups got to get washed. And how do I clean my cups? Sometimes I just rinse them out with as cold water as I can stand it, just like freezing cold water. Or I'll use a nail or blue-in, and I'll crumble up a little bit in each glass, and I'll let that sit. And then I'll go in and I'll massage the dirt off of the glass with that, and I'll go back in with a paper towel and get the rest of the dirt up. And then I'll clean, and then and then you can see the difference. I can feel the difference. So for your ancestral altar, right? Now this is a Boveda. Like I said, this is if you are a medium and you really got like a lot of spirits with you and you are that energetically connected, this might work for you, right? But like I said, it's an experiment. You're gonna have to be your own scientist at some point. You're gonna have to experiment with certain things. These things are not gonna kill you, right? Like, there's some things that you really shouldn't do. Like, don't put pictures of the living with, on the table with the dead. Like, just don't do that. Don't be putting all different types of deities on the table together. I see some people, they do that. That's their thing. I don't play those games, okay? You ain't gonna see me in here with a Buddha statue, next to a Yemaya statue, next to a Bast statue. You ain't gonna see me do that. That's not my thing. Now, if you want to take them chances and do them things, that's your thing. That's not my thing. I don't do that, okay? So I can't tell you to do that. I don't know nothing about that. But what I do know is that on your ancestral altar, right, like I said, how I had the pictures and stuff on a different table, it doesn't have to be all elaborate with the 9 cups and all of this. You can have only pictures of the people that have transitioned. You can have a candle or a place for light. So that could be a lamp, like an oil lamp, or it could be like a candle holder that you could just put like a chime candle in when you feel like you want to put light there. A glass of water, because like I said, water is the universal conduit. That's how the spirits get refreshed. And a plate or bowl dedicated to meal offerings. Like, that's what I forgot to say. I have a little bowl on the side of my table too. Like, so that when I cook or when I have certain meals, I just share a little bit of my food with them. And then maybe like after the meal is done, like a couple of hours later, I'll dispose of the food on the next day. And depending on your practice or what your people specifically ask you for, you might have a cup for coffee offerings. You might have a little bit of cemetery dirt from a family plot. Not just any old cemetery, not just any old dead person at the fucking graveyard. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about if you got a family plot, like I have a family plot in Jamaica and we have a family plot also in Jersey with like 3 or 4 relatives there. Those, you leave a little bit of coin offering, to the earth. Then you take a little bit of dirt. You can put that either in a bag or its own little vessel on your altar as well. Rocks or shells from ancestral land works as well. You could have cigars, like some type of tobacco, cigars, cigarettes, chewing tobacco, loose rolling tobacco, papers, things that they enjoyed. So if you know that your granddaddy liked to smoke Pall Malls, then get him a Pall Mall every now and again. If you know that your aunt liked, Coke, get her a can of Coke, or a little cup for her to put her little Coke in, right? I'm not talking about cocaine. There was there was somebody in one of the groups that I was in I don't know if it was last year, year before, they was like, what do you think about using crack cocaine in your work to speed things up? And we almost had a freaking heart attack. Like, what? Why would you put narcotics on your table? What? Yeah, it was a mess. So yeah, I'm talking about Coke, like Coca-Cola, okay? You could put spirit dolls. Like I said, if you have certain spirits that walk with you and they request representation, you can put a doll to them. Like I said, that is very on a case-by-case basis. That is, if you are told to do something like that, that's how that works. You don't just go put in Barbie dolls on your altar. I wouldn't recommend that. You can have a glass for liquor offerings. You can have playing cards or lotto tickets. If you had ancestors that worked with like numbers and number runners and all them things, like those could be some of the people that really help you in some of your money workings. A cross or a crucifix, depending. I know a lot of people are rejecting Christianity, but like I said, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. There's a lot of other meanings with the cross and the crucifix, and we could talk about that in another episode. You have prayer beads, right? You could like either a rosary or like Muslim prayer beads, like whatever. You could put that a pañuelo or prayer cloth. I also have one of these. It's actually not on my Boveda anymore. It's on my working altar because I just don't, like I said, I don't like to keep it cluttered. So I just have a separate space for that. So one of my guys specifically requested a prayer cloth with blue sequin fabric on one side and white on the other. So I use that sometimes when I'm working with her. And then like if there's certain events or things happening that is involved with the deities that she works with, I'll take the prayer cloth with me to kind of charge it up for her. It's a lot of mindfulness that goes into maintaining your altar because you're constantly thinking about them the same way how they're constantly thinking about you. It's like literally like calling your aunt and being like, oh, auntie, I'm out. You want something from the store? Like, you have to think about it like that. You can't think about these people being so far removed from you that you don't communicate with them. Like, we have to open our minds and understand that even though they don't speak to us in the same ways that we're used to speaking with actual people that are still here, that don't mean they're not talking to us, right? And the altar is a way to kind of broaden that communication with them. You can put money, right? Paper or coin, money, right? I have money. Like, I have a jar with bills that's on my working altar, and I have bills underneath certain glasses. I used to have more money when I lived in Jersey and I had my space, but somebody robbed me, and whoever robbed me went under each of my glasses on my altar and took the money from under each glass. I don't know what's going on in that person's life. I'm assuming nothing good is happening to them, but I can't worry about it neither because it's just money. And I was told like, oh, maybe you shouldn't keep money out like that, la, la, la. But I was just like, nah, like, it's my house. If somebody came to my house and violated me, why I got to alter the way I live and what I do for my people because somebody came in my crib and violated? That don't got nothing to do with me, actually. I'm going to always put money on my altar, real money. And when I talk about real money, I'm talking about cash, dollars. I ain't talking about this ancestor money shit that I'm seeing people talking about. I don't know nothing about that, okay? A few people asked me about it. Well, what do you think about ancestor money? I'm like, I don't think about ancestor money because what the fuck is that? Especially got some Chinese man on it. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, some people might have some Chinese ancestry, but at the end of the day, I'm talking to black folks right now. At the end of the day, okay, you better off putting some cowrie shells or some actual real gold jewelry on your altar before you put some Chinese man on a piece of paper. Just saying, all right? Just saying. Not really into that. So cash money, because why would I go and spend money? And I don't believe in burning ancestor money and all that. I don't really do that. That's not my thing neither, because the representation of burning money to get money just seems crazy to me. Like, I'm going to spend money to buy money, to burn money, to attract money, seem kind of productive to me. Just saying. Might as well just take that same dollar, charge it up, and keep it in my wallet. Take a bay leaf and burn that, right? Like, I could burn a bay leaf. I'm not about to be burning no money. That sounds crazy, okay? I'm sorry. That's not my thing. You can also have Florida water or other spiritual waters on there. Some of y'all might know that I do like the different waters. I do the Florida water, tobacco water, rose water. I love the tobacco water for my ancestor work. Like, something about tobacco and my ancestor work, I just love it. So sometimes I put it on before I get to work, or sometimes I put it on before I leave the house. Like, there's a little bit of a protection before I leave the house. It's actually one of my favorite waters. It's one of my favorite ways to do it. And like I said, you can have funeral programs, you can have personal items from specific relatives. I used to have my grandmother's wallet. I have all of these items still in here. I just have to find different ways to display them and put them around the house for protections. And that's what I kind of want to segue into, is like, your ancestor altar is literally dedicated to them. It's not necessarily a working altar, like where you will do your candle work and like put different candles on it. Like, I only put candles on my altar, my ancestor altar, for them. I don't do, like, if I'm working my own honey jar or something like that, I don't put that there. Like, that's not there, right? I have a different space that's dedicated to that. So I have a working altar that's right next to it, where I do my card readings and all of that stuff. Like, when I pull my cards for myself, where I keep like certain things, like I keep a jar of money, I keep the bottle of rum that I use for them. Like, I keep the tools That's my working altar, right? The working altar got all the tools on it. It got all of the, I got a little shelf underneath where I have all of the candles and the incense and the charcoals and I got the books. Like, that's the working altar. And things in progress, like tools that they've requested that I haven't finished, dressing up for them the way they wanted and stuff like that. And it's like, it's before it goes to them, it's on the working altar, but like right next to my Bovita though. So it's like, when I do my card readings for myself, they right there on the right there. It's me and them. But I don't put my cards on the altar. That's my thing over here, right? And then I have another little space on top of, I have like a chest in here that has like jewelry and sunglasses and like little personal items. On the top of that chest, I have, I guess it would be considered like my little Ori altar, like for my own higher self. I have, whatever little elixirs or tinctures I'm taking to fortify myself. I have some personal items, like things that I might have dreamt. I have my honey jar. I have a little incense burner up there. I have a fan. Like I have like very personal little things, crystals. Like very personal. Like I don't go up there that much. Like that's just like the most I'll do is I'll put a candle on top of my honey jar, right? And that's like above my head. So I literally think about it as like my altar that's for my Ori, like it's for my head. It's not for anything else. It's just to keep me and my head grounded. My ancestors keep me grounded as a whole being. But my Ori, that's different. That's my destiny. That's my thoughts. That's a whole different thing. And there's other altars that you could do too. Like I just moved into this space, so I just got a little side table and it's orange. It's like my bedside table, and orange is like the sacral chakra color. So I'm gonna do like a little sacral chakra like space, it's gonna have like a lot of little things that remind me, keep me mindful of, the things that I need to do to strengthen and embody, empower my sacral chakra. And there's so many other kinds, like if you are an Orisha devotee, you may have something behind your door dedicated to Eshu. Well, Elegua, because Eshu lives in the street. Just want to let y'all know, like Eshu and Elegua are not the same entity. If we just want to go there, they're just not. They're like, it's like the man in the shadow, not the same. Eshu lives in the street. You don't have Eshu in your house. You have Elegua in your house, and depending on which Elegua pathway you have, there'll be a very special Elegua behind your door. I do not have my warriors, so I just have a representation of Elegua behind my door. It used to be a coconut, but now it's just a old candle that it used to be an Elegua candle, but I just have it there, and it has like a little prayer card in it, and it has some coins and some candy, and it's just a representation. It is not a charged up thing. So that's the other thing too. When people say altar, they automatically think that it's powered up. You have to power it up. If you have an altar that's dedicated to an entity that you are not initiated with or formally introduced to, it doesn't really have no whole bunch of power like that. It don't. I'm sorry. So you could put as much sunflowers and honey and oranges as you want. That don't necessarily mean that Ochun is going to be congregating there. It might be somebody else congregating there, but it ain't Ochun. If it was not given to you in the proper way that you're supposed to be receiving, Ochun. Or if you have, like I said, Elegua, a coconut is just a coconut. It doesn't necessarily mean anything unless it's consecrated and certain prayers and connection is made to it, because altars are ultimately about connection. So one of the only altars that you should feel comfortable doing is for your ancestors, because they are of your blood. They are of you. That's why you don't put people that are not related to you necessarily on your ancestral altar. A lot of people have conflicting opinions about this, and there's a lot of people who don't know all of their family, and that's why when you say your prayers, you say for all the ancestors I know and the ones I don't know, because a lot of us don't know who certain members of our families are, or like a lot of us can't go back for so many generations, and a lot of us may feel scared because we have people that we know that have transitioned that maybe are not into that, so we might feel like scared. And listen, it's not about that. It's about, this is your place, this is your meeting place. You are inviting your people to come to you in this way. Don't think that just because somebody was one way in life that they're going to be totally different in the afterlife. But also don't discount the fact that sometimes people's perspective does change on the other side. There's a lot. There's so much. It's literally like, there's just so much. But it is important to know that while, altars and all these things that, a lot of people do it and it looks pretty and all of that stuff, it's not about what it looks like. It's about how you feel. It's about the connection that you build with it. It's about the intimacy that you have with it. It's about the little secrets that you learn about yourself and about your people while doing it. It's about the work. I don't care how many crystals is on it. I don't care if the glasses are the most fine cuts, China. It's not about that. It's literally about, is it working? How do you feel? How much progress are you making? Can you see your progress? And then it's not about showing it to the world either. I don't take pictures on my altar. I don't. It's not. It's just like, to me, it's almost like taking a picture of a dead body in a casket. I think it's a little tacky. I'm going to be just all the way real. I don't take pictures that's me. I don't take pictures of my altars. When I was young, I used to. But now as I'm older, I'm like, it's a little personal, it's a little private. I'd rather not, I'd rather not. And I love, the connection that I have with them. And I love, how influenced my moods are by what is transpiring on my altar. That's also another reason why I don't take pictures. I don't need people knowing that much about me. You know what I'm saying? If I take a picture and you see my candle burning a certain way, I don't need nobody to be like, I don't need you in my fucking business like that. I just don't. So that's also why I advise people not to take pictures of their altar, not to share some really intimate personal things, because it's like, you don't want people really being all up in your spirit. Like I said last episode, you don't want people all up in your spiritual business like that. You just don't. Learn how to share without oversharing. But I feel like we live in an age where everybody just want to share everything. And it's like, we got to be mindful that what we're doing today don't got nothing to do with, what the real work that we have to do for the longevity, right? Like, some fads and shit may come and go, things, times change, but this connection that you're strengthening with your people, this is what you here for, this is why you here. You're here because you're an amalgamation of all of these people that came before you. You are so lucky and so blessed to have been made it to this point in time with people who literally couldn't even fully conceive certain things, but they knew, like, all right, I might never get what I'm going to get, but there's going to be somebody behind me that's going to get it. And I want to, and this is their way of seeing you get it. This is their way of helping you achieve and helping you bring these things to fruition. And to cheapen it with a photo op or a post on social, it just cheapens something that's so beautiful to me. So that's why I really love, my connection that I have with my people. I really sometimes feel even embarrassed. Like I said, like, I know certain things and then I still play myself and not do certain things. But that's the science of it. And that's the whole thing. We're talking about magic, alchemy, manifestation, whatever. All of these things are science, and science has rules, whether we want to admit it or not. There are certain rules, certain shit. If you into chemistry, that you can't mix certain things, you will risk life and limb. Just be like, I just want to see what's going to happen. If you already know what's going to happen, don't risk it, But when you knew, this is how you learn. Like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fuck up sometimes. You're going to have your missteps. But as long as you are documenting your progress, documenting your experiences, reviewing the things that you already went through, as long as you're growing from your mistakes, then they're all, they're not mistakes. They're just happy accidents. And on that note, I'm going to end this episode. I have so many other things that we could talk about, but I'm going to do a second part to this because there's so much more. I'm going to go a little bit deeper with this probably on Sunday. And I'm really looking forward to hearing y'all responses to this episode because a lot of people ask me about this. And yeah, y'all can follow me on social, Soul Things BK. You can find me on Facebook, Soul Things Botanica. Like I said, I'm on Twitter talking a little shit these days at xdecadent. And you can also find me on the web, soulthingsbotanica.com. This podcast is on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast is everywhere. So share it if you feel inclined. Leave a comment if you want. Thank you for everyone that subscribed. Thank you everyone that commented. And until next time, keep it black, keep it magical, and I love y'all. Peace.